Hi guys, welcome to the last big snapshot of the 1.20 snapshot season. So all the big features that were announced in the last couple of days are already in the snapshot. You can try it out. So Archeology is in there, the Sniffer, and also the cherry growth biome with those wonderful cherry trees. But there's even more to talk about. There's also important changes that will already affect 1.19.4. For example, horse breeding got changed. It's going to be easier to breed a horse now. And there's also changes to jukeboxes that are really good. Alright, so let's check out the new cherry blossom biome first. I think it's a wonderful addition to the game. And I think it was also one of the most popular requests for new additions. I remember reading about suggestions to add this to the game years ago, and now we finally have it. The correct name for the new biome is the cherry growth biome. So similar to other growth biomes, of course, it would generate a bit more hilly terrain. In my world, I actually got really lucky and one generated directly at spawn. But I also teleported out and searched for other biomes and usually found them within about 2,000 to 3,000 blocks of where I searched from. So I would imagine it's not too rare to find one, probably similar to the new mangrove swamp biome that was added in the last version. But yeah, if you find one, it's definitely worth it. So let's check out the main features of this new biome. It's of course dominated by the cherry trees. They can also generate beehives on the side. So the three type of passive mobs you can find in this biome are rabbits, sheep, and of course the bees. The bees are also really busy in this biome because there's so many blocks they could pollinate. So all the cherry blossom leaves can be pollinated. They're within the flower class, so they work similar to the azalea leaves. But there's also the flower petals on the ground. They can also be pollinated. So there's definitely a lot of options to choose from for bees. Let's actually check out the flower petals a bit more. So I would say those were kind of similar to the sea pickles that they have for different states or the candles. So in case I'm in survival mode, I can just punch them out. So they're easy to farm. You don't need silk touch for that. And yeah, there's 4 states to this, so similar to the sea pickles basically. This would be now the state 3. If I mine this, I would get 3 items. You can also place those down again. First one, I get like 3 flowers in a corner, then the second corner is filled, third corner, and fourth corner. Yeah, you can also use bone meal, so you place one down, use bone meal on once, then corners filled, and so on. And if all the corners are filled and used bone meal on it again, it generates flower petal item. So this is similar to the 2 high flowers. You can also make an easy farm out of this. You can place the petals on mud, for example, dispense on the side, hopper below, and some sort of clock, and that's all you need really. So let's check out the new cherry trees a little bit. Those are really interesting because there's a whole new wood palette. I'm gonna check that out later. So new planks, new trapdoors, new doors, and so on. Also new boats and chest boats, of course. Right, so for farming, it's gonna be quite interesting how tall they're gonna be and how they grow and so on. But apart from that, they work like the classic trees, so not like the new type of trees got added. For example, for the nether trees, you needed fungus to grow them, or propagules for the mangrove trees. Those are kind of classic in a way that you can just mine the leaves and get sticks and saplings. So I have a couple in my inventory now. Then you can place those saplings down. Either wait until it gets random ticked or use bone on it. Yeah, and a new cherry tree grows. Yeah, the cherry tree itself is also kind of unique. Didn't have any tree that grows similar. So they usually have 2 branches. They grow to the side. And they're usually 8 blocks high. But there's always plenty of leaves. So getting enough saplings back won't be a problem. I also experimented a little bit to see what are the minimum space requirements for the sapling to grow into a tree. It seems like 3 by 3 is not enough yet, but a 5 by 5 is. So remove all of the blocks here, then the sapling can grow. It's also quite interesting that here the glass blocks don't really cause the tree to grow smaller. It just generates outside of that. So this is quite interesting. I would imagine the classic 5 by 5 tree-form approach could work, but it's gonna be a bit more complicated than, for example, acacia trees, because we have branches on 2 sides. So there's plenty of logs that can generate the same height. It won't be as easy as pushing out a birch tree grows just straight up. Okay, now let's check out the new wood that we can get from the cherry tree. So yeah, as you can see, it's really pink, which is of course not how it looks like in reality. Yeah, I think it would actually resemble more something like the jungle wood we have in the game. But I think for Minecraft, it actually works really well that it's pink. So it's definitely a different type of wood color we got here. Right, so we got the logs, of course, then the cherry wood, the stripped logs, planks, stairs and slabs, fences, fence gates. Those two are always the most interesting in my opinion, because there they have to make like new designs, and those are definitely unique. So we didn't have this shape with the trapdoor and the door at all yet. Interesting. Here's of course also buttons, pressure plates, signs, hanging signs, and yeah, boats and chest boats. Next, let's check out the new archaeology feature. They brought a new type of sand to the game. So there's now also suspicious sand in the game. It looks slightly different than the normal sand. Also a bit different. You can actually mine it quicker than a normal sand. So you gotta be really careful to not destroy it. So you can see I'm in survival mode right now. Now the suspicious sand is mined in no time. You also get the glass breaking sound if you actually break one. And here we get the normal sand. It takes a bit longer to break this. Of course, once you have some good shovel, then you can break the sand usually quicker normally. Then you could break the suspicious sand, but there's really not much time until you accidentally mine it and lost it forever. So why is the suspicious sand now even that interesting? Well, it's where you get all the new archaeology features from, which aren't really that many. So if you just take the suspicious sand from the creative menu and then use the new tool, the brush on it, you won't get any special items from it because it requires some treasure loot. How do you get the brush? Simple crafting recipe. It's like a string pickaxe. 2 sticks and 3 string. You see a brush that, by the way, can't be enchanted. So you can't really speed up this brushing process. So you need to right click the suspicious sand, and then it goes through certain stages, and then either drops an item or not, and also turns into normal sand you can mine. So here I use the command to have the correct loot table for the suspicious sand. In case you wanna copy that, it's on the bottom. Yeah, let's use right click on that, and we can already see there's something poking out. That's one of the new shards, but it can be all kinds of items. I saw emeralds, diamonds, just plain sticks. Let's actually get the item from it. So there we go, we got an arms up pottery shard. I think there's 4 different types of shards. Let's actually try it again. Let's see what we get this time. I think that's a stick. Yeah, that's not that great. There's a whole loot table for this. This time got a brick. On average, this is like really not worth it. Only if you want to get those shards. I see actually a point of doing this. And this time, getting suspicious stew. Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, I'm sure in a day or so, somebody will publish a whole list of the items you can get from here. Okay, but the block itself is also interesting for redstoning, maybe. Because there's the dusted attribute on the right. So in case you start brushing, it immediately turns to dusted 1. Then it has a cooldown 40 ticks until it turns back to dusted 0. You can also keep brushing, dusted 2, dusted 3. And if you stop, it turns to 2, 1 really quick, and then 0. So of course this can be read out by an observer. And this would be actually a really neat delay circuit. That's just like speculation. What I think would be cool, if you could put a brush into a dispenser like this, activate it, and then we get a signal from it, and then 2 seconds later we get a second signal. It would be a kind of neat delay circuit, to be honest. But of course it doesn't work like this. So the dispenser doesn't work with the brush, and it's also a bit of a challenge to actually move the suspicious sand. So if you would try this and turn it into a falling block entity, it just drops down, and when it lands it actually explodes. So even if you could get the entity somewhere, you couldn't dupe it, for example, using the end portal frame trick. So that wouldn't work. Also, if you would try to mine it with a silk touch shovel or anything else, it wouldn't drop anything. So it's pretty stationary, but I'll show you a trick later how you can get the suspicious sand item in survival. So we already figured that one out. So where can we even find that suspicious sand in normal survival world? So you can find it around the desert pyramids and around the desert wells. So for the desert pyramids, I already have a strategy. So usually on this level here, on the ground, you sometimes can see just some normal sand. You can dig that out, and usually it would uncover something like a stairwell. There we go. You can dig down a little bit, and yeah, around this layer you have a chance to find that suspicious sand. Okay, so we're not too successful here. I think the best would be if I just actually convert all of the suspicious sand with a fill command into something like anvils so we can easily see them. Okay, so let's use this command here and replace all of the suspicious sand with anvils so they will be easier to spot. Okay, just fly around. Yeah, I was already digging here in the right direction. So usually you can uncover those stairs, then you just have to dig around. And in total, there were 5 spots only for suspicious sand. So really not a lot. So here's the trick how you can get a suspicious sand item in survival right now. And I really hope this doesn't get fixed, because it doesn't help you at all. It would just be a cool trophy to have. So in case you actually manage to get one of the suspicious sand items in survival in your inventory, if you place them down again, it won't have the loot table. So it would just turn into normal sand if you use the brush on it. But you could use it as a fancy on-off switch, for example, in your base. Or just have a trophy room for a suspicious sand. So here's the trick. You place some soul sand below and you get some water and just make a bubble column. So like this. Wait a little bit until it turns into a bubble column. And then you break the block supporting the suspicious sand. And it will bounce up. Now you have to wait 30 seconds until the falling block entity pops as an item. This would happen to any other falling block entity as well, so anvil, sand, and so on. After 30 seconds of bouncing in the bubble column, they would just drop an item. So any moment. There we go. And that's a suspicious sand item. So I can pick this up in survival and place it down again. But as I said, doesn't really have a use apart from being cool or as a secret on-off switch. So next let's take a look at the shards, which are kind of the unique item you can get from the suspicious sand. So I checked the creative menu. There's apparently 4 different types: archer pottery shard, prize pottery shard, arms up pottery shard, and skull pottery shard. Right, let's take a couple of those. You can use those to make a pot. But you can also just use normal bricks to do the same. So if you arrange them in this pattern here, you can create a decorated pot. Although this is like the plain pot that isn't decorated. So you can then just replace either all or some of those bricks with the shards. Okay, let's do that. Place it down. And then we got some wither skulls here on the side of the decorated pot. Remember when it was first announced? At the Minecon Live event, one of the selling points of Archeology was that we were able to tell our own stories with those shards. Not entirely sure, maybe I'm just lacking creativity, but what kind of story should I tell with those 4 shards that I can arrange on 4 sides for pot? Not entirely sure, but yeah, they didn't mention that in the patch notes again. Yeah, anyway, you can also break the pot again and get your shards back. So in case you didn't like your story, whatever, I think any tool really works. You can also try an axe or a pickaxe and just break this again in survival. Or the shovel and get the stuff out again. In case you use your fist in survival, then it breaks just the whole pot again. Also using Silk Touch will break the whole pot again. So here you can see the 4 different shards applied on the pot: arms up, skull, prize, and archery. Okay, let's check out this pot itself a little bit. It's actually quite interesting. So it's not a full block. There's a little gap in between. So we have some slits you could, for example, shoot arrows through in case you create something like this. You can see. Gives enough of a gap, unlike, for example, the honey block. Might also be interesting for item aligning. Got a 1 wide gap here, which isn't the honey, so you can put it on top of your hoppers for your storage system. So that might be some of the uses, and it's actually relatively cheap, only costs you 4 bricks. Unless you want to put the shards in the side, then it's getting a bit expensive. Because remember, I only found 5 of those sand blocks here in the whole desert pyramid. Yeah, getting a good amount of shards is actually really hard. The pot itself also looks actually quite interesting because it's higher than a block. So it sticks out a quarter of a block of 4 pixels. But it doesn't work like a fence, for example. So the little thing here on the top doesn't have a collision box. So yeah, step on it, same height, so it's just visual. But that also means you can create some kind of unique effects in combination with certain blocks above. For example, you could place a pressure plate here, or a torch that sticks out. If you don't mind a bit of set fighting, you can also put a lantern there, or an end rod. There's a couple other things. I think the sea pickle also looks quite interesting. Place one there, sticks out a little bit. I'm sure people will come up for, yeah, nice decoration uses for that. But there's even more that makes the pot really interesting. If you check on the right, it says waterlogged false, so you can apparently waterlog it. But if you just try to right click it, it actually puts the water source next to it. So in case you really want to do it, you gotta place the water source first and then place a decorated pot in it. And here comes the interesting part. Move the blocks around. It looks like this. So this would be a quite unique block. So it works similar to, for example, leaves. The water doesn't spread on the side, but yeah, you could combine this and, for example, use it for a cobble generator, stuff like that. Lava flows down. You get some cobble here. This is definitely a bug though. Of course, I think this is quite interesting. I wouldn't mind if it stays, but I already checked. You can also get the water to flow. So if I try this, now the water actually flows out to the side, as you can see here. Now I'm going to remove this water source. The only water source that remains here would be the one, you know, of the waterlogged pot. Yeah. I'm sure this will get fixed. Unfortunately, you also can't use the pot as a flower pot, for example. That's something I definitely tried at the beginning, to put maybe one of the new torch flowers in there. More about that later. But yeah, you can definitely get creative. So somebody on Reddit posted it, maybe use it for decoration somehow. But there's also a workaround. You can use an actual flower pot on top and put your flower in there. Also kind of neat. It's also not possible to power through the pot or move it with pistons. It would just break and pop as an item if you tried it. It's a bit unfortunate. Actually, I would have hoped that we can move it. This is almost like a block. Anyway, so the waterlogging itself is kind of interesting. Also tried it here. Spencer also doesn't work. Not entirely sure what is actually the plan. Maybe the water is inside of the pot, but I'm not sure if that would have been helpful. So right now, waterlogging just doesn't work normally. Next, let's check out the new sniffer mob that just dug out some torch flower seeds. Perfect. So I got some in my inventory. Those are the torch flower seeds. They can grow into this torch flower, which can be crafted into orange dye. Okay, so those sniffers, in case they are on a block, there's actually a new tag for it. Sniffer diggable block. Yeah, can dig out those seeds. So the one sniffer that just dug has now a cooldown of 9,600 ticks. So that's 8 minutes, where you can't dig another torch flower seed. But in case you got multiple, then of course you can increase your production. So there's the second guy. Started digging. Here we go, got seeds as well. Okay, you can't just place down those seeds on normal dirt or grass. You actually need farmland for that. There we go. You can put the seeds down. And then, in case you're impatient, you can also bone meal those. And they grow into the torch flower. It just looks like a torch, but doesn't emit any light. You can also use the torch flower seeds to breed more sniffers. Then you can get a baby sniffer that, as always, takes 20 minutes to grow up. And you can also feed more torch flower seeds to the baby sniffer to speed up that process. So what else is interesting about the sniffer? Not much, to be honest. So they're about 2 blocks wide, 1.975 to be exact, and they are friendly. Even if you attack them, they would just speed up a little bit, run in a random direction pretty much. But there's also really no point killing them. They have 14 health, So they can't even take many hits. Kill them with the shovel. All they would drop is the usual, I think, 2 XP on average. So yeah, that's pretty much all about the Sniffer. Already tried around a little bit to farm the ancient seeds. So in case somebody really wants to get a lot of torch flowers for decoration, and of course you need to get a lot of those torch flower seeds. That can get quite tedious because, well, there's the cooldown of 8 minutes. And additionally, they also save the last position they dug up seeds from. In case I randomly select this one here. Use the data get command on the right entity. So let's take this one here. So here you can see the sniff cooldown. There's still 5,700 ticks left. And additionally, they actually save the position where they dug up the seeds from and won't do it again from the same position. They save 20 of those coordinates, and then the last one just gets deleted if they get a 21st one. So I already tried around a bit. It doesn't seem to work at all to just put a lot of them into a 2x2 cell. Didn't get any seeds from that. But when I had 3 of those in a 5x5, well, yeah, we got a couple of the torch flower seeds from that. So it seems like the strategy to farm those seeds would be to make a big pen and then put your sniffers in there and have hopper minecarts below. I also tried it out already with the mud because that's also a, is it called sniffer diggable block, but it didn't work on mud. For me so far it worked on grass and dirt. So maybe 2 more interesting facts, one about the torch flower and one about the sniffer. The torch flower is actually not a flower. So unlike other flowers that are in the flower category, you couldn't use the flower in combination with a honey farm, for example. Bees won't pollinate the torch flower, which I think is actually not a bug or an oversight, because the only way you're supposed to get this flower is not by pollination, it's by digging up the seeds. So I guess this is actually intended. You can also see the crafting recipes, you can get orange dye from it. But considering how expensive or tedious it is actually to get this flower, I think just orange tulips combining dandelions and poppies you get from the iron farm is way cheaper and more feasible. Okay, also when the sniffer was introduced in the patch notes, it said it's the first ancient mob that will be added to the game, meaning there will be more ancient mobs that will be added to the game. But it's actually quite interesting that we're gonna have more similar mobs to the sniffer that are somehow tied up to archaeology. So really looking forward to that. Right now we don't know what it means though. Also almost forgot to mention that right now you can't get the sniffer in survival, you need to use creative mode to get them. But the way it was explained in the mob vote was that you will be able to find sniffer eggs that can hatch into a sniffer under right conditions. So this will be revealed in one of the upcoming snapshots how it works exactly. But now let's move on. So the topics we talked about so far, cherry blossom biome, sniffer and archaeology, will be part of the 1.20 update. But there's a couple more changes that will already affect 1.19.4, like hopper and dropper support finally for the jukebox. So I'm really happy about that. That's something I wanted to have in the game for many years. We already had it in Bedrock Edition 8 months ago. I made a video pointing it out as well. And yeah, it was pretty much a parity issue. Mojang now fixed that, and now the jukebox works the same in Java as in Bedrock. So you could easily watch the video, but I'm gonna explain it quickly again here, what you can do now. So you can use a dropper or a hopper and insert music discs into the jukebox. So this is super nice. Like before, you can use a comparator that will give out a signal strength accordingly to the type of record you put in there. So for pick step, it's power 13. But the block itself, when it plays the record, is also basically a powering block. So as you can see, the redstone on the side here turned on. If I put a piston on the side, will also get powered by the jukebox. So it's basically a redstone emitter. This also locks a hopper below, so you can't just basically prevents that the record goes straight through. So this will be turned on as long as the record plays. So this can range from 1 to 5 minutes depending on the record. Okay, so there's unfortunately no way to speed this up right now, but I imagine after a couple minutes it will just turn off, and then the record will be picked up by the hopper below. So to make some sort of a playlist will be extremely easy, because it also prevents that the hopper above, for example, puts in another record immediately. So you need to wait until one record has played, then the next one will be put in. So yeah, it works great by itself already as it is with this feature. For redstoning, this might also be a really interesting feature, because you might be able to use it as a redstone circuit. So in case you get an input that puts the record into the jukebox, a signal in there, this basically stays on for either a minute or up to 5 minutes. So it's a really compact delay circuit that can compete even with a hopper clock. I was also really happy to see that the music system I made 8 months ago as part of the jukebox video now works in vanilla. So I used a mod that Process made back then, but now, yeah, it works in vanilla. This is actually pretty awesome. So here you can just select whatever record you want to play. It's stored in a dropper in the back and puts it into the jukebox right here. There we go. It's using some fast droppers to speed this up. And yeah, you can also switch between. You can press the button and play a different record. So it's really nice. So we're actually taking out the item here with a hopper minecart, because it doesn't get powered like a hopper directly below out of the jukebox. So it is possible to also take out things while the record is playing, then it immediately stops, of course. Yeah, the system also had an off switch, in case I don't want to listen to music anymore. Just press the button, and then I put the music disc back into the system so you can use it the next time. So things like that will be possible. You can probably make an even more sophisticated music system now with a playlist or whatnot. So it's a really nice sandboxy feature that we finally have in vanilla. Really happy about this. What I don't really like that much, and I'm well aware that I have an unpopular opinion about this, was that horse breeding got buffed to a degree where it's just unrealistic. So if you have 2 horses that can be really good with the same stats, you have now a 50% chance that the baby horse will be even better. So I can definitely see how a lot of people would like that. But I think I'm just gonna make a separate video why I don't really am excited about this idea, because it basically results in everyone having the same horse with the max stats now. Let's actually talk about another bug fix that I don't really like. So the horse breeding behavior change was actually based on a bug report. Somebody made a bug report because they thought horse breeding is too hard. And yeah, it was fixed. Maybe I should make a bug report that getting netherite is kind of hard. Maybe it will be fixed as well. Anyway, so there was this bug that if a baby camel enters a boat, it can grow up to an adult camel, which normally doesn't fit in a boat. It was kind of useful because you could actually make like a 4-seater minecart with this, just by picking up the boat with a minecart and then putting a saddle on the camel, which can hold 2 players. You were basically able to have 4 players that would be sent off with a single minecart. And this doesn't work anymore, so you can still put the camels in a boat. But what changed is if the camel grows up now, it will be kicked out of the boat. Yeah, this bug report is basically just no fun allowed. Don't think this helps anyone, but just removes this kind of cool feature that we had. There we go, it grew up. I just spammed with cactus to speed this up and immediately leaves the boat. Unfortunate. This change also affects baby horses, by the way, so that if they grow up, they would also get kicked out of the boat. Alright, so that's it for today. A lot of changes, a lot of good stuff. Thanks guys for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.